Good afternoon in New York and the Americas. Good evening in Europe, Israel, and Africa. And welcome whatever time or day or night for all who are joining us from all corners of the world. I'm Yael Danieli, founder and executive director of the International Center for the Study, Prevention, and Treatment of Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma, ICMGLT for short. Thank you for joining our webinar today. This International Center for Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma commemorative solidarity psychohistorical webinar belatedly celebrates Hugo Höllenreiner birthday, which was 14 September. And by Hugo, I mean the elder one, the one in the film, not the one who is with us happily. In our flyer, we encouraged participants to watch the 45-minute film Dui Roma prior to the webinar. Produced in 2013, Dui Roma, which means to Roma, chronicles the suffering and survival of Hugo Höllenreiner, a Roma Sinto from Germany, victim survivor of the infamous Angel of Death, Nazi doctor Joseph Mengele's experiments in Auschwitz concentration camp. His brother as well. In the film, Adrian Gaspar, the young aspiring Roma composer, and the director's son, both of whom are here, is Hugo's companion, listener, interviewer, who then sets Hugo's experiences to music in an oratorio titled Symphonia Romani, Bari Duk. Both the documentary and the musical work are mainly in Rromanes, the native language, with subtitles, and I hope that you managed to get the relevant subtitles when you were watching it. Webinar participants include the filmmaker, the interviewer composer, and Hugo's grandson. Your moderator, I am a clinical psychologist, victimologist, traumatologist, and psychohistorian. I devoted much of my career to studying, treating, and preventing multi-generational impacts of massive trauma, to victims' rights, to rights of future generations, and to reparative justice, that views the justice process, not only the outcome, but the moment to moment and the totality of the relationship of the justice system with the victim, as offering opportunities for and is experienced by the victim as healing and repair. Of course, as you will hear from our superb presenters, history and its politicization too plays a role in the victims' and their descendants' experience of justice for their suffering. My version of psychohistory is related, as it dedicated to articulating history as it is lived, rather than as mostly a series of dates and events. Adrian Gaspar, the director and producer of this amazing documentary, was raised in Romania with fluency in 3 languages, but Adrian, her son, will kindly translate her and Hugo's comments for the benefit of our English-speaking audience. Jovanka pursued her academic journey in sociology in Vienna and dedicated over 3 decades to her professional career there. For the past 5 years, Jovanka has been serving as a social worker specializing in outpatient educational assistance in Munich. She directed and produced the film Dui Roma, as I mentioned earlier, in 2013. Pianist and composer Adrian Gaspar, our second speaker, a Romanian-Austrian pianist and composer, musically active in the fields of jazz, classical, as well as gypsy and world music in Vienna, Austria. Since 1996, Adrian was born in Moldova, Romania, in 1987 to a large family belonging to the to the Roma ethnic group, and spent his childhood and schooling in Romania and in Multigenerational, Germany. Adrian Gaspar is a pianist equally influenced by the music traditions of the Orient and Occident, going his own way, yet bridge builder between different cultures. As the International Center of Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma, we are particularly glad to have with us our third speaker, Hugo's grandson, Hugo Höllenreiner. Hugo was born on February 12, 1992 in Ingolstadt, Germany. He is self-employed in the construction industry. What he wrote us is, I perceived my grandfather as a wise, kind, and friendly man who was very patient and always had good advice at hand. We have an hour and a half for the webinar. Each speaker will talk for about 10 minutes. Following an interchange among us, I will open the floor to questions or brief comments from the virtual audience. Panelists will then conclude with what we call last words, the message. Please use the chat function and we will do our best to respond to as many as we can. Feel free to direct your questions to a particular panelist or to the full panel. We begin with Jovanka Gaspar. Jovanka, the screen is yours. Please.
Andi să vii și te dau duma pușta la Rromanes. Ce avem bahtale. Adi, to šunezma te da știți te traduciți.
Așa da.
Rromanes te penau. Da so te penau, ando filmul sea, so s-ar cărdim. Da, o Hugo Höllenreiner pringentem le sando Auschwitz ande tu imitaia. Andagodea că s-a experimentul cu Mengele, s-a andamante but interesant no hai andagodea lemnes de cărau filmul ăsta.
Adrian, would you please?
She met Hugo in 2008 in Auschwitz at the International Memorial Day, the 2nd of August. And since he survived these experiments of Joseph Mengele, he had something more special in his history, so it was fascinating for her.
Hai o interviu kai deja diclem anglal că să te povestil sea so cărdeavo, janglem că tu s-ar mogoșeau cam este care să compoziția Bari ca te avem corobut, andagudea sa so conceptul deja sau ideea cărdili atunci, într-un moment goda, că dem duma că da desa pagodea hai Kana vilem krependem tu căsute căres.
From beginning, when she met him, she knew that she wants to make this interview with him and with me, with myself. And since she also knew that in this time when I was still at the university, I always wanted to write something for choir and orchestra. So this was her idea that I get the chance to do this. And well, when she told me about it, it was like defined what will be the concept of this movie.
Hai o Hugo sa zgădea carisma, hai gădea de șucar, janglea te penel seasu lescă, sovotra s-ar șeauvo de șăbăr șâncu, încât s-ați mangă ușuro, te avem deja o mesajul pe care am te transmiti al publicosco.
Since Hugo was a very charismatic person, and he was telling his stories, let's call them like this, he was telling the stories in a very beautiful way, how he was talking. It was very easy for her to present it to the audience. Like it was, she didn't have to do a lot, like to cut a lot of things.
Deci lescu portretul sau lescu interviu, deja s-ați mai ideea te avel andamare și augă. Andamaro tinereto te da știnte di când pasoste na clo ca nasa și augo, vivo vileschi familia, hai socăr de au Mengele lesa, hai pale ci dea pe mardo ca na răzlo ca lescă bărșai sarame prin jandeam sasăc manuș realizme, hai cudea cam nem te transmitea mare și augângă. Te na cedin, te na me câmpe, hai te na cărem vare so anda pe scutraio.
Her goal was, first of all, to show, like with the interview of Hugo, she wanted to give an example to the young Roma people, to show them like the stories, what Hugo survived and lived, that he, even though he lived all these things and he survived them, he was not giving up and made it to a very successful like businessman, and he was he's an example for young Roma people.
Hai tu că dea compoziția mai ales do filmul dichiul pe cașunezles, sichileanles, dar în primul rând me cam le mandatute sau moșeaute că erau vare so dedicăs pasoste nacle lenghi generația.
And she also wanted me that I learn from his generation what they had to live, what they had to go through. And to be honest, this is my personal interpretation of this. Before him, even though I knew some other survivors from here, from Vienna, I was not so into this, let's say, into this story, into these happenings. We also didn't have a lot of the topic in school. So when I met Hugo, for real, I started to learn and to go more into the topic of the National Socialism. So it was something special for me as well. And that's what my mother also wanted me to do.
Hai godea dichiul pe ando filmu, hai cam nem te aveți exemplu, andai cover generația, ca na same majterne sartute, celempes că vivon dedicăm sonacle amare manușan de vremea godea. Oda să smuvo mesajul specialo anda amare șaugă.
And he wanted to show myself as an example for the younger generation who were like sitting and listening and learning about the history of what Roma people went through in these times.
Hai sar muzica, cam lem te să cavau că arăslean, te studisan de Viena, avea mare șaugă, te Jean pe Godot drom, te săchion, se mai put, te dican că da știn, tu sar modelul anglalen de tărno șaugă, godea cam lem te folosei mai anglal, anda amare manuș.
Also, especially for Roma people and for young Roma in general, also for the musicians, you know, that there is a big stereotype that most Roma are very good musicians and stuff. She wanted to show, to give, or to put me as a role model for these younger generations, that it's also possible to study at a music university and to make another style of music which is not the traditional stereotypes.
Hai că n-avem îl gaje că cam te transmiti, îl fimosa cadalesa, te na subaprecina me sar vomni, juvli, seamel trinker deam o filmo, hai cam te penau te mai mecan vi pe amarevas te las amare buchea ande amarevas, na te căren se avona vrea alvare sopamente, codea cam lângă te transmiti.
And for all non-Roma people, her message with this movie was somehow to show them, like to show all of you that it's possible for Roma, for ourselves, to do things, to make things in our way, so that non-Roma don't underestimate us as a people, and it doesn't have to be always in the style of non-Roma. It can be also in another way, like Roma people would do it. For example, this movie is done just by ourselves.
Hai tu sar muziciano cam te să cavau îl gajengă că înta îl vom cicăren muzica numai te cărel lângă toane la șete, călen, n-ai muzica numai de stradă, e muzica serioasă, clasică, godea cam te să cavau să-l gajengă că s-am stare prântute.
And also she wanted, through my music, she wanted to show the world, like to present another kind of music which is possible to be made, and not just for fun and for parties and the stereotypes which most non-Roma think or know about Roma music.
Hai gudea să alo sardemle sar manuș de știință, o istorico, o Baumgartner, hai încheal o amaro Marcel Cortiade, sa spale măgâi ideea ca da știl pe te avel îl pendimata al Fugoscă te avem dovedime științifico. Sea să o pendea că cala dovedi sarde sar oameni de știință.
And also the two other people who were interviewed, Gerhard Baumgartner and Marcel Cortiada, both of them were people from science. They came with a lot of facts about the history, so everything what Hugo was telling about his what he lived there in in Auschwitz and in the other camps was true and was proved by the two historian people.
Hai că am neapărat avelan de Rromanes. A reușit să ardem. Deci, te del duma, te așundeol pe sarse Rromanes catal Sinti, o Marcel curtea de pe coveri, hai tute intenționime, cam nem te avelan de germana, te să cavel pe că tu janes mișto, e și nemțățcu, na.
And also something special, she wanted that almost the whole movie would be in Rromanes, in the language of Roma people, so that they can hear the different sounds of how Hugo as a Sinto was speaking, how Marcel was speaking in like another variant of it. And she also wanted me to speak in German, so that also non-Roma can see that we speak more languages than just our mother language.
Da, hai că n-a dorit mangândou viitorul, te avel o filmă de kino, s-o mai putea lumea, dar te da știi la spete avel tot din nou andel școli. Hai di casa cana, con andal gajesule, e dorința ca de ea, hai, ame să am calimbi dispoziția.
And her wish for the future with this movie is that that the people grow, like the number of people grow who are watching it. She wishes that the film could be shown in a lot of schools, and she's hoping that there are a lot of people, teacher and well, different possibilities, so that the movie will be shown.
Hai beșau că dispoziția că n-a ca să întrebări, dau tumen mai dur, e vorba.
So she's giving the word back, and she's open to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we will wait for the dialogue and the questions, which is hard to do after such an inspiring presentation. And Adrian, would you tell about you and about you in the film and you in general, and what when was the starting point for you?
When was the starting point to work on the music, or what was the question? I didn't understand.
Just make your own presentation. We will. Yes, I don't want to spoil it. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Well, as I already said in one of the translating points, for me personally, it was as well something special because it was the first time that I started to look for and to hear more about the story, about the history, which actually started in the region where I still live, like Austria and Germany, since we all know Hitler actually was Austrian. So this is maybe there are not so many people who know this or who like want to give this information. For example, in a school where I was in a musical high school. We had a lot of music, and so all the other stuff were a little bit less than probably in a normal school. So our history lessons, or let's say in our history lessons, we didn't learn a lot about this time. and especially in the general how they call it, in Austria, in the community, like there is still some kind of, well, the Austrians were the first victims of the Nazis. And you don't hear a lot of times that, well, Hitler was Austrian actually. So somehow there is more than just a victimization of this country. And also the political situation in the last years in Austria also doesn't, doesn't move in a very in a very good way. So there is that.
It's moving in the right, but not in a good way.
Yes, in the right, but it's also it's still a problem. And when I was in school, we didn't talk a lot about this. So when I met Hugo, it was for real for me the first time that I started to see more, to learn more, and especially with the goal to write music with his words. Somehow I had to make it in my opinion, in a very rational way, because in the first few interviews it was somehow fascinating, shocking as well, because there are some stories which still are somehow shocking when you hear them. For example, about little Maimo, or about his friend who was shot just in front of him. So this kind of things are not something that you hear from anybody. And so it took me some months before I started to work on it. Like first we shoot the interviews in German. After some months we shoot another interviews in Rromanes. And well, after this I started to transcribe, like, let's say 95%. In my opinion, I think that there is 95% of his words. I just took them out and put them into music. I just change a little grammatical things or linguistic things, but I didn't change anything didn't add or change anything in the story line of Hugo. So this was the first step how I started to work on this composition. Yes, and since it was the first work, it was the very first work for me to make music out of words. Before I was always working just instrumentally, and well, to be honest, I think it was a very risky thing.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have any experience. I was 21 when I started to work on it. I already was at the university, at the University for Music and Performing Arts for composition. But to be honest, in these first years, you don't get the experience, the practical experience that you need for this kind of works. So I had to work it out myself and to just take the risk. But since I felt and I knew somehow that his words were so heavy, the story was so heavy, and in general, in my opinion, it was like I can't do anything wrong. Even if I would have write just something for speaker and violin, probably the message of his stories would have been as heavy as it is. So that's why I choose, and I had the possibility to make something a little bit bigger with a lot of core and with symphonic orchestra. So I took this risk and told myself that it can't go wrong. Yes, well.
And you even involved your own school.
No, this was not my, no, it was not my school. This was another music high school from Romania, where the young, like the young people from the movie, it's the core of the music high school from Romania, which are like in the same institution or work very often together with the state orchestra of Baku, the orchestra which played the premiere and afterwards also the other concert in Vienna, which is in the movie scene.
I have about 2,000 questions, and I'm sure the audience has many more. And but are you giving the floor to Hugo, or you still want to add right now?
Well, yes, I would like to add something.
Please.
Let's say it like this. It was back then, it was a big privilege for me as a young composer to have the possibility to write something like this, knowing that it will be performed. And probably that's it. Maybe this is a lack of how the musical community works, because if young composers know that something would be performed, I think that there are many more who would try to do this, to write for bigger orchestras, bigger lineups. But since it's a very complicated thing to find people and to have the budget to perform it, well, yes, I don't know how it's even made by others, but I can say that after the 2011 concert, which is seen in the movie, the piece wasn't played yet. So there are more than like 12 years since it was not played. And me as a composer, I would like to change some things, like to work on it, to change just some instrumental things, something musical, which I would try to make it a little bit better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But since I don't have the possibility for the future, it's nothing organized. There is no budget to find an orchestra, to pay the orchestra, all these things. If you don't do it by yourself, it's hard to find some sponsors or organizers who do it. Well, and since I don't know if it will be performed another time, I don't do the changes yet. So I'm waiting for the next possibility, so I can change it and upgrade the composition. Also, there is another movement, a sixth movement, which was not played back then. It's a newer one. The last words of Hugo from the movie, where he says that that he is that he tries everything to do so that this never happens again. This were his last words in the movie, and I took them and made another piece, but it's not yet in the sixth movement of the piece, and I would like to do it if it's possible to perform the composition once again. That's what I wanted to add.
Well, knowing your mother, she will make you do it. And you already said it was a big risk, and you met the risk very well. So perhaps it is time that you complete it exactly how you like it to be. And who knows? We don't know. Maybe somebody in the audience here, in our audience, will ask for it, and so you have to finish it.
I would like to. It would be great.
Okay. You're challenging the world. I'm challenging you back. Because you have the vision how to complete it. And it would be wonderful if you, to your own sense of accomplishment.
That's right as well. That's right. Because
if you put it, if you are satisfied that it's exactly what you want to say.
That's something that's probably another point, because in my opinion, as a living composer nowadays, I think we have to be open for compromises, because probably we never get 100% the possibilities that we would like to have as a composer. So we have to take what we have, what we get, and to still be open to work with people, with little orchestras, with ensembles that are not as big as we would like to, but still, as a composer, I think that every once and then in a lifetime, you change your mind, you would like to change something at the piece, and still it's important to be satisfied with what you have done. And
Absolutely.
I think I'm to this time, I'm very okay with it, how it was.
And we continue. There's grandson Hugo.
Yes.
The young generation. We have 3 generations here. This is so amazing. And
Yes.
such a perfect way to fulfill the Sinto's dreams, right? Together. So
Yes.
there you go. When when you grew up, did you know, did you hear any of the stories? Did you hear any, what did you know about, we know that you thought your grandfather was a very kind man, and he seems it too. And as Ivanka said, he was also very charismatic. What was it like to grow up at home? Did you know any of the stories? What was it like?
Adrian?
Oh, yes, that's right. Adrian forgot his other job.
Sie hat gefragt, sie weiß ja mittlerweile auch von meiner Mutter, und man sieht auch, dass er auch von dir, wie du gemeint hast, dass er ein sehr gutmütiger Mensch war, und man sieht auch, dass er sehr charismatisch war. Und hast du schon einige dieser Geschichten gekannt? Wie war es für dich, mit deinem Großvater, mit deinem Papa aufzuwachsen?
Ja, ich sag mal, wir sind ja mit den Geschichten über ihn und mit ihm eigentlich groß geworden. Also, wie gesagt, man hat da mal wieder eine Geschichte gehört, da mal wieder eine Geschichte. Und deswegen ist mir natürlich viel geläufig. Das war jetzt auch so, wie gesagt, ich sag mal, wenn du damit aufwächst mit diesen Geschichten, dann ist es dann irgendwann nicht mehr, also so quasi, weil viele fragen mich ja dann immer quasi, wie kannst du damit umgehen oder ist das ein Schock für dich gewesen? Ich sag mal, wir sind da so reingewachsen, deswegen habe ich vieles natürlich schon gewusst, gell? Also es war nicht so, dass ich damit überrascht worden bin, gell?
So he's saying that he already knew a lot of stories. He grew up with these informations, but probably this was also one of the things, because since you're a kid and you already know a lot of it, later then when you're asked how are you dealing with this kind of things, probably it's something very normal to you that you know it, and so he can't wait. I have to think about for the translations. Was hast du gemeint?
Man hat es im Alter dann erst eigentlich, also erst wo ich ein bisschen älter geworden bin, habe ich darüber eigentlich dann richtig mehr nachgedacht. Als Kind hat man das halt so gehört und hat sich aber jetzt nicht so viel dabei gedacht. Das ist erst ein bisschen im Alter kommen, wo dann ein bisschen, sage ich mal, der Verstand mehr da war, wo man dann darüber nochmal sich Gedanken gemacht hat, richtig halt, gell? Wo man das dann richtig erstmal mitbekommen hat.
It was later then when he became older that he realized what actually happened, and before it was more like knowing the stories, but just later when he was thinking about it, he realized what happened in reality.
So, and that it happened to your grandfather, not just to your people in general?
Hast du das erst realisiert, dass das auch eben deinem Großvater passiert ist, oder hast du das halt nur generell von den anderen auch mitgehört? Also hat er dir persönlich auch was erzählt zum Beispiel?
Ich sag mal, das jetzt im Nachhinein hätte ich so viele Fragen und aber als Kind hat man das halt alles gehört, man hat das natürlich gewusst, aber das ist, wie gesagt, erst alles später so, wo du sagst, wow, ich hätte ihn so gern jetzt das gefragt und das und wie war das? Aber wie gesagt, ich war da noch ein bisschen zu jung, dass ich da, wie gesagt, jetzt im Nachhinein hätte ich viele Fragen an ihn. Ja.
He says that nowadays he would have a lot of questions to ask his grandfather, but in the time back then he was probably too young to understand all the things. He knew, he heard it from different parts, but yes, now he realized, and he would have a lot of questions to ask.
For example, what questions would you want to ask him? Would you share them with us, please?
Kannst du ein Beispiel geben, was für Fragen du an ihn hättest, ob du das mit uns teilen wollen würdest?
Ja, ich sag mal, viele Fragen, gerade von der Zeit drum, wie es war so als Kind, wie es auch danach dann, wie es so gewesen ist. Also wie gesagt, das explizit jetzt da was zu nennen, ist schwierig, aber wie gesagt, das ist mir schon ganz oft, wo mir dann wieder was eingefallen ist, wo ich ihn dann fragen wollte, wie und was, und auch über seine Eltern. Also es ist viele Fragen. Ich wüsste jetzt da explizit gar nicht, wo ich anfangen soll. Ja. Aber wie gesagt, es war halt damals durch das, dass mein Vater viel abgeblockt hat, der wollte davon nicht so viel wissen. Und deshalb sind wir da auch nicht so jetzt, dass man das, wie gesagt, das ist von uns eigentlich immer ein bisschen mehr, wir sind da abgeschirmt ein bisschen worden als Kinder.
Von
Ja.
deinen Eltern aus.
Genau, also mein Vater hat halt geschaut, dass man normal aufwachsen, dass man diese Geschichten jetzt gerade nicht so mitkriegen. Man hat zwar gewusst, der Großvater ist immer an die Schulen, der erzählt da und der haltet Reden und so, aber ich sag mal, so realisiert habe ich das dann erst wirklich, wo so zum Schluss, wo die ganzen Ehrungen kommen sind, wo ich dann auch ein bisschen in die Community reingekommen bin, wo man dann gesehen hat, wow, da ist ja so viel dahinter, wie viele Leute und mit Büchern, und das haben wir als Kinder und auch als 20-Jähriger, sage ich mal, 18-Jähriger noch gar nicht so mitbekommen.
Mhm.
Ja.
Well, first of all, he says that his parents, like Hugo's son, they tried to stop all these informations that to prevent, let's say it like this, the kids, when Hugo was a kid and too young, that they didn't want him to know too much about it. He just heard it, and he saw that his grandfather went into schools and speaking and telling about the stories, but he was not very into it. And just when he was older, 18, 20, he realized how much was there when Hugo Höllenreiner got his prizes and honors. He also knew the community. He saw that there is a big community after his grandfather, and a lot of appreciation. But it was later then. So in his younger ages, he knew that there was something, but not too much, and he realized it very late. And he doesn't have any explicit question which he can share with us now, but he would like to know more about Hugo's parents, like about the parents of old Hugo, how it was before the war, how it was afterwards as well.
Mhm.
There are some things that he would like to know, but yeah.
Yeah, the whole family, it's your family tree. Of course.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm. Very, very important. And is there a way for you to interview anyone else to find out?
Hast du die Möglichkeit, wen anderen zu fragen, wen anderen zu interviewen, um deine offenen Fragen zu beantworten?
Ich habe, wie gesagt, mein Bruder, der war aber ja der Peter Höllenreiner, aber wie gesagt, der war dann noch zu klein. Mit dem habe ich die letzten Jahre, bevor er gestorben ist, viel zu tun gehabt. Aber wie gesagt, der hat mir halt viel erzählt dann, wie es nach dem Lager war. Wie gesagt, im Lager war er ja Baby. Und einen Bruder gibt es noch, das ist der Hugo Höllenreiner. Aber wie gesagt, der möchte, glaube ich, bis heute nicht drüber reden. Also der ist auch 85 Jahre jetzt. Der wäre noch ein bisschen älter gewesen. Aber der ist da total abgeblockt, sagen wir mal. Das hat den so früher halt, dass der gesagt hat, er will damit nichts mehr zu tun haben. Ja.
So he had the possibility to talk a lot to Hugo's little brother,
Yes.
Peter Höllenreiner. So he could take some information from him, especially what happened after the concentration camps, because Peter Höllenreiner himself was just a baby in this time, so he didn't know a lot about it, how it was. He couldn't tell, but he told him more how it was after the concentration camps. And there still is another brother of Hugo Höllenreiner, which is Rigo Höllenreiner. He's 85 years now, but he's the one who doesn't want to talk about it. So he's like not so open to talk about how it was in the concentration camps.
He's the one who didn't have children, right? Probably because of the experiments.
And that's the other one. That's Manfred.
What? Oh,
Manfred is the brother who he was together with Hugo at the experiment, and he didn't have children. But he's dead already.
Ich habe ihn noch gekannt, aber da war ich zu jung noch. Also um Fragen zu stellen, glaube ich, war 7 oder 8 Jahre, wo er gestorben ist.
Hugo was too young when Manfred died. He was 7 or 8 years old. So he knows him, but he couldn't. He doesn't know a lot about him.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Ivanka, did you know Manfred?
No. Ma pe că mulo deja, cana me prinjademne sam de tu mi ohto sas deja mulo.
When she met Hugo in 2008, Manfred already passed away, so she didn't meet him. But I can say that.
Da, al Peter o sprijana se spe că cădeam lesa cam nem te crau Dui Roma, hai ci găti să tem că.
We knew Peter Höllenreiner, the youngest brother of them, and she started to make the next movie, which is called Dui Roma. Yes. But he died in 2020. So there are still some raw materials which were filmed, but the movie is not done yet.
Că n-ai lovit.
Yes, there is also no budget to work on it. She's still waiting as well.
Do you know anyone if Manfred got married?
Da, o Manfred s-a sterilizime, s-a sânsurime, alezna s-a avele și ave. Godea, dar știți pe nestă gai povestea că se-a godea gândi să-i loveau Hugo, că n-ai te avele și ave. Hai fiindcă araclea o Manfred s-o cădea pe lesa, a star di lopi masco, deci vo numai pilea. Deci s-ați deja, andagodea vi mulo put mai târlo. Deci gadea pendea mengă o Hugo.
Well, what she says is what Hugo told her, that Manfred was sterilized.
Yes.
And he was married, he had a wife, but he realized then that he can't have kids. And Hugo thought that he had the same thing because they were together at the experiment. Yes. And he also thought that he couldn't have children, but later then, well, he had his family.
We're very lucky. We have young Hugo.
Yes.
Ja. Mein Vater war in gewisser Weise für Manfred wie ein Sohn.
So his father was somehow something like a son for Manfred, for Hugo's brother. They had a good
Everyone.
relationship.
Yes, yes, of
Er
course.
war auch bei ihm, als er gestorben ist, und die letzten Wochen, also war, glaube ich, nur mein Vater bei ihm. Also es war eine enge Beziehung.
His father was like the last weeks before Manfred died. The father of Hugo was there with him. They had a very good relation to each other.
Yes, among, we know in other groups, such as the Nazi Holocaust of the Jewish people, that we created substitute families, like we called uncle or aunt just friends because they were all gone. And the children also served like everybody's children. So this is very moving to hear it from you as a similar way that families and communities survive after.
Ja.
Sie sagt, dass es sehr, sehr berührend ist, auch von dir das zu hören, beziehungsweise bestätigt zu bekommen, wie es auch bei den Juden danach war, wo auch sehr viele aus den Familien gestorben sind und sie sich dann mehr oder weniger eine künstliche Familie zusammengestellt haben, wo die halt nicht blutsverwandt waren und sie sich trotzdem als Onkel, Tanten und Kinder wahrgenommen haben, um sich da eine neue Familie aufzubauen. Dass die halt so enge Beziehungen, sehr familiäre Beziehungen nach den Konzentrationslagern erstellt haben, damit die Familie weiterlebt, sozusagen.
Ja, das stimmt. Das war bei uns auch viel. Also ich weiß ja von den Älteren, dass wenn dann einer oder der Vater ist dann wohin gezogen, die waren ja früher Nähe Rosenheim, dann München, Ingolstadt, und das sind dann immer alle gleich mitgezogen dann. Wie gesagt, am Ende waren sie ja in Ingolstadt, und zum Beispiel die älteste Schwester, die Frieda von meinem Opa, derer hat die andere Schwester, die Rosi, ein Kind auch gegeben. Also die hat ein Kind von der Rosi großgezogen. Und als ihr Kind dann quasi, ja.
There is, he confirms once again, especially in their family, it was very close. Every time someone moved to another city, all together moved there. So they went from Munich to Rosenheim, and after Rosenheim, all of them went to Ingolstadt. So the last years of Hugo, he lived there with his family also in Ingolstadt. And also something which I didn't know is that Hugo's eldest sister, Frida, like gave a child to her sister, to Rosie, so that
Andersrum,
she grew up.
die Rosi, der Frida.
Sorry.
Genau.
Yes, I understand. That's amazing.
Andagudea că vi voi sa sterilizme pendiau Hugo, deci vie când ales că pe ea sa sterilizme.
Also, old Hugo Höllenreiner told, like my mother knows it from him, that also one of his sisters were sterilized.
Să na pauză.
Great.
Rovel?
Hard. Yeah, you have to document all of this, Jovanka. You took on a mission.
Pentru că am misiunea, trebuie să documentezi
Da, ok, cărau, numai n-aș ști corpul. N-aș ști
She
corpul.
says she wants to do it, but she can't do it alone.
Oh no, I don't know. We will somehow stay around together. But I would like to share with the audience that this Ayavanka, this force of nature, inspirational force of nature. I'm a small person, but she comes to this. She is a tiny little thing. She's one of the people around the world who makes me feel tall. And
Thank you.
and I have total faith in you. Total faith in you.
Peka că n-a cărau filmul Hugo ales că nepotosa, hai godea sosima ca tau Peter, hai se familia Höllenreiner complet.
So she wants to work with young Hugo and with the material that she already has from Peter Höllenreiner. She wants to complete the Höllenreiner family.
Oh, you have to, and Hugo is so eloquent. It's amazing how the whole family, I guess, like older Hugo, very eloquent, very articulate. And so they're ideal documentary, partners. And Adrian, you have to finish the first piece because I have the feeling that there will be another one.
Well, there already are different pieces with a similar, let's say, background. But that's another story. I started to work on a composition for soprano and orchestra actually in 2011 or 2012 about it's a poem. It's a longer poem written by a Romani woman back then. She survived also the Nazi time, let's say it like this, but she was not in the concentration camps. She survived with her family in the woods. It's the story of Papusha Bronislava Weiss. I took some parts of a very long poem that she wrote. It's called Bloody Tears. It's written in Rromanes, and I already took some parts and started to work on it. Till now, I was performing just two pieces of the, like two arias, let's call them areas, because I also use them in a chamber opera. I use them as arias in a chamber opera, but the whole piece is not done yet, since, well, we need someone who wants to organize and to sponsorship this work. It's for soprano, solo, and for symphonic orchestra. Another thing is that I already had opportunity to write the music to 3 pictures made by Karl Stoika. He is also an Auschwitz survivor who lived here in Vienna. I had the privilege to know him as a kid. Like when I was a kid, I went to his workshop and was painting with him. I can't remember a lot, but I know that I was there, and I know him as a person, but since I told you when I was a kid, I didn't know a lot about the history.
Yes, I wanted to ask all of you about that because you're different generations. It seems that your schooling in terms of learning the history was different. You said that, Adrian, you said that in your schools, they didn't teach this history. Hugo said that in his schools, they did. So it's different time. So this is very interesting.
I can just tell you that in Germany, it is different to Austria.
Go ahead, tell us.
Germany, they do it otherwise. I mean, we can ask Hugo. Hugo, wie war's bei dir in deiner Schulzeit? Habt ihr da viel darüber gelernt in Geschichte? Anders als bei uns?
Also ich persönlich muss sagen, dass wir es, aber ich weiß auch nicht, ich war ja Wanderschüler. Das heißt, dadurch, dass wir auf Messen unterwegs waren immer, war ich genau die Winterzeit daheim auf einer festen Schule und über den Sommer alle 3-4 Wochen dann immer in anderen Schulen, je nachdem, wo wir gerade waren. Also das war von Stuttgart bis nach Bonn, Nürnberg, Wien, bin ich auch in die Schule gegangen. Und ich muss sagen, dass ich nicht einmal in meiner ganzen Schulzeit dieses Thema hatte. Wow. Ich weiß nicht, ob das vielleicht dann gerade am Sommer durchgenommen worden ist, in Augsburg dann, wo ich gerade weg war. Aber ich habe es nie gehabt. Wow. Also ich habe gar nichts über den Holocaust in der Schule erfahren.
Von wie vielen Schuljahren? 10, 12 Schuljahre? Oder wie
ja, in 9 Schuljahren. 9, ich bin dann selbstständig geworden. Ja, nach 9.
So in his case is something even more special, I would say, because he was Wanderschüler, I don't know the word for it. He was in his school time, he was in different schools because they moved very often.
So you have a good overview.
Yes, but he didn't. He says that he in all these 9 years of school, he didn't learn anything about the history of National Socialism.
Und ich habe das schade gefunden, weil ich habe eigentlich immer darauf gewartet, bis das kommt, weil ich ja natürlich dann da viel gewusst hätte und hätte natürlich auch eventuell ein Referat machen können über meinen Großvater aber wie gesagt, vielleicht war ich jetzt nur zur falschen Zeit an der falschen Schule dann immer, dass das vielleicht nach mir, weil zum Beispiel meine Cousine, die hat das gehabt in der Schule und die hat als Referat dann darüber, also ein ganzes Referat über meinen Großvater erstellt.
Ja. Okay, so for example, he says that his cousin, she had this in school and she also had the possibility to make a presentation about her grandfather, about Hugo in school. Could have been that young Hugo was at the wrong time in the wrong place somehow, so he didn't have in the different schools, he didn't have this topic, but yeah, and he would have liked to have the opportunity to learn more about it and maybe to also make a presentation about what he knew from his grandfather, but he didn't have this opportunity.
Und einmal war in meiner Stammschule bei uns in Augsburg, also Gersthofen, ist gegenüber das Paul-Klee-Gymnasium und da hatte er einen Vortrag. Und also dann war er überall ausgeschrieben und dann kamen auch sämtliche Lehrer dann zu mir und haben mich gefragt, ob ich ihn kenne, weil er ja genauso heißt wie ich. Und dann habe ich das auch alles erzählt dann und wie gesagt, dann war es dann in der Schule auch bekannt eigentlich.
Once it happened that his grandfather old Hugo had a presentation in a school which was next to Hugo's school.
Oh,
And so his teacher came to him and asked him if he knows this man because they have just the same name. So he told them that it's his grandfather, and so they had more interest about it.
so all of you are very busy of preparing the world. You know, in our center, we believe in even the awards we give, they are called Repair Awards. And it sounds like all of you try to repair. Jovanka is trying to repair not only the state of history, but the state of self-respect among Roma young musicians. To repair, to make the world. And Hugo, it sounds like you're on that road. And Adrian, I wanted to ask, and then we will go to the audience questions, because we can sit for hours and talk as we do. Adrian, has your music or this film inspired younger Roma musicians to also go, just like what Jovanka said before, go to school, also to study Western music, etc., and feel more confident in the world? In that sense.
Till this moment, I don't know anyone who did it afterwards, but I would like to try for the next years to take this how do I call it, to take this responsibility and to look for people who want to do this, because it's a generations change somehow. In the next years, there will not be any of the survivors anymore. So our generation nowadays, we have to change the kind of memorizing, memorial, the kind of telling the stories to the others, to non-Roma, to the younger generation of Roma people as well. And here in Vienna, it's me and another musician colleague. We try to start right now to organize something for 2025, where we want to start a new kind of memorial way, let's say it like this. And in this concept, I would like to take this responsibility of being somehow like a, let's say, supervisor or mentor. Let's call it mentor for younger Roma musician, to give them the possibility to work on new music on this topic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
As a composer, you have to get into the topic to make new music. If you just make instrumental music, or if you just make a living out of music, for sure you play wherever you have to. It's just like a normal job. You play, you work for money, let's call it like this. But to have the possibility to work on a topic like this, it's another responsibility. And I think that till now, it's not common to give this opportunity to younger Roma musicians. I know just 2 other composers, Roma people, who were working and writing compositions about this topic, but both of them are a little bit older than I am, like another generation, older generation.
They belong to the survivor generation?
No, they're not as old, but it's a different generation who studied music in a different way as well. But the younger people, who I know, they're not into this topic, and I see, just as you said just before, somehow I see myself as a potential mentor for this kind of younger Roma composers, to also give them somehow the opportunity to work on these topics. And we want to start this from 2025. We want to start it in Vienna.
I wonder if we can make a webinar with the three composers, with you and the other two. That would be a great thing to do, and
I can give you their contacts.
Yeah, and we can make it longer, so we also listen to music, and it would be a good, and Jovanka would tell me what to do.
So, te pedau so cărau me?
Da, depinde la că s-o te cărel.
So te cărel voi?
So you are asking her what?
To help me organize it.
Ajuti-la te organizări, godea să te cărezi tu. Perfect. Einverstanden.
She accepts.
What did she say, Adrian?
She said that she accepts that she will,
Wonderful.
help you
the two of you, because you know, we have had webinars of indigenous artists of the Americas. We have had webinars that address the use of art for memory and healing. And there's no reason that we shouldn't do it this way. And of course, another possibility, you, Adrian, and I spoke about it when you were in New York. There is a very well-known Israeli composer with my name, Yael, who also, her father, a Holocaust survivor, told the daughters to write his story, which they did. And she wrote an amazing piece. Also, like you, for orchestra, chorus, and soloists, about her father's Auschwitz experience. So we can do, you know, both within the Roma community, but also across communities. You know, when they face different ways to remember, and different ways, creative ways to try to find a way to convey and to inspire.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many creative ways we can talk about. Now, I would like to go to the audience. Janos Stoika is saying that it's a pleasure to meet all of us from the World Roma Federation. Hello, Janos. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes, how are you doing? Hello.
I'm very happy. Go ahead.
Yes, I don't know, you hear me very well?
We hear you perfectly.
Thank you very much. First of all, pleasure to meet you. Tabem Bachtalis Asogo Dijene Konkate. And it was a pleasure actually to meet you with the Chaya Stoika exhibition, as it was a fantastic. Now also for Ivanka Gaspar for the movie, and also Adrian Gaspar for the directors for the Hugo story, I believe is a very remarkable, and it's a very emotional. This is the real face for the Holocaust, because the Holocaust is not just a fact, not just the Holocaust, is the fact about exactly in what's happening. Now, my question for Ivanka Gaspar and also for Adrian, because Adrian he's do the amazing thing about for the musical, especially for the serious musical side, about all the passionate. So usually everything is say about for by the music and the composition. Of course, this was the very emotional moment. Now, because of the Hugo is the Mengele and all experience, this is a big emotional milestone moving about for the Roma Holocaust, because we are the new generation. Actually, Choya Stoica is in my relative. My grandmother's side, we all coming from Vienna. I'm raised and born in Hungary, but I'm here in the Strait almost 30 years and dedicated for the World Roma Federation for almost more than like 15 years. So in my research and also for all this movie, what I see that, and I believe we need to be continue, like also in all the panelists has been headlined about for no attention and no study, but the schools. Yes, this is the problem. We also, the World Roma Federation is actually is part of to the End Hate Jewer organization, which one actually we learn a lot about for all these tools and all this platform. So my question is for Ivanka Gaspar and also Adrian Gaspar, to definitely I'm motivated, Adrian, to keep going and continue to make a musical site, because we see more episode is available 100%. We also try to help them and how we're gonna be able to continue, because without support or any financial stand-up, of course, this is a hard job. We all do understand. Now the other thing is because we talk about when Ivanka, he was here in New York, I was happy to meet them, both of them. And we're promising to starting about for the education in the historical side, because the World Roma Federation is an institution in the United States. So usually we like to be more bring for attention about the historical side. So my question for Ivanka, how Ivanka his take to implement this study program for the institution side, because I believe this is very remarkable. The new generation, he need to be learn about like that. And we really be like to be continue to stand up the platform about for the historical side. So I really want to know about for Ivanka, what do you think about, what is her thought about like that? Was my question. And I thank you, is a fantastic panel. I like it.
Thank you, Janusz. Ivanka, you want to answer it briefly?
Sunt de acord, să vă pendea, da, cam au de avel o teca evo camel o filmul. Godea cam pendea o...
Andau de studiil pe penel pe trebulaste și pe...
No. We need it in English for everybody else. Janusz, please. You're not the only audience. Go ahead. Adrian, we need you to translate. Oh, Janusz, I don't care.
Pe că godea s-o pujleama, godea că rau. Sunt de acord lesa.
N-avă pujlea tu sar gândis tu sar da ști la s-o trebula scărdino ca o tema că chiar te avel și tini mai but ca l'universitate, școala.
Păi pendem mai anglal. Îl gazie trebun te avem de acord, me dau le mâga aprobarea, hai gadea că ras.
So she's saying that she, in her opinion, she's open to give the rights for like the movie to be shown in schools and university. This is the first step that has to be done, and well, we have to see afterwards what is possible and who wants to support as well and to sponsor these things.
Yeah, Janusz, I would think that your organization is the natural sponsor. We can talk about it, but it makes perfect sense that this is what you exist for, no? Let me continue with some of the questions. some people mentioned, including Janos, mentioned the incredible exhibition of Čejka Stojka works that just closed here in New York. I have the pleasure to also know her granddaughter and the great-granddaughter, whose name is also Čejka. So I agree, it's a gorgeous one, and we most likely will have a webinar on those works. But I want to attend to other people's questions. Lawrence, there's a question by Larry Wetzler. He says almost no English subtitles appeared in this 45-minute movie, with German being the predominant language, which us English speaker had to somehow attempt to decipher, which is true. This should be taken care of. But he has a question. My question revolves around how any attempt to symbolize the horrific, indigestible, and unspeakable experience of those victims of the Holocaust is doomed to fail. Words and music can never begin to even approximate this experience. Please respond with your thoughts, and please include more English subtitles in this film. That's, yeah. Was this even directed to an English-speaking audience? But that's separate. I think Lawrence is asking a very important question. I remember when I grew up in Israel, some of the survivors said that there's no music, no art after the Holocaust. And even Elie Wiesel, right, the very famous Holocaust survivor, Jewish Holocaust survivor, to his last breath, believed that we don't have words to convey the Holocaust. And so let's go, maybe you can talk about that in Utah, Hugo, because if you want to speak about it, it's the same challenge. What about the ability to convey this? How did you feel when you took it on as a challenge to convey in words and in music a period, a horrific period that seems beyond reach?
If I would
Go
like
ahead,
to
Adrian, please.
I would like to respond on this because the interview itself is something which are 100% the words of a survivor. He was open to speak about it. So there are words, in my opinion, because there were this kind of people like Hugo Höllenreiner who wanted the new generations to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of history facts and the information, the history, anyways, we have to know it, but it makes it more special to hear it, to see it from someone who went through it in his personal, with his body, who was there. And so if he was open, he was ready to do it. There are words. So why not using this kind of interviews to make more of it? Because as I just told you before, in my opinion, the history will just remain history, like everything what happened before, like 400, 500,000 years ago, it will remain history. But since this was not just happening, it was something very bad, a genocide for many, many different kinds of people. I think that 70 or let's say 80 years after that, I feel, as a composer, I feel that there is a responsibility to take it into, or let's say, to take it onto another level. And the level of like this history, which the facts will remain anyways in books, we have the possibility to make possible the memorizing, the knowledge about what happened for the newer generations through a different kind of media. And this is art. This is music. With music, with emotions, you can achieve that people got more related to the history through emotions. I think the history will remain alive for longer than just in books and in just as a fact. So somehow to make a more personal thing out of it. And that's what I see nowadays. To be honest, when I was younger, back then when I started, I was not thinking about this, but I realize it right now as this kind of possibility. So it's also a personal thing for myself that through this work, through the composition, I had the possibility to get into the topic, to know more about the history. And since in the next few years, there will not be any survivors anymore, it's up to us, the younger generation, to give this history to the next one.
I think Wolfgang Gretcher is saying it also very well in his comment in the chat. He said, it's to you, Adrian. I first read Hugo's memories, then I saw the film and listened to the music. And first I thought you can't translate this horror into music. Then I realized Hugo's experience is not only horror and discouraging, it is also very encouraging. This is what Jovanka said before. And this is the way I experience the music now. And between us, it's fantastic. Thank you, Wolfgang.
As well.
Yes, could you, because the two other questions are directed to Hugo. And oh, good. Thank you, Hugo, for coming back. Because there are two, very good. There are two questions for you. Anita Feinstein, who is a wonderful member of our center, is saying, I did not understand what happened to my family until I was an adult. When I read about the Einsatzgruppen who made Poland, Ukraine, Judenwine, I did not understand that my family suffered through this. Right, so they're like different ways to say, you know, I can read history, but then it becomes my history, my family history. It's a different experience, which is, thank you, Anita, for, this is a very existentially important point. Thank you for saying this. And I think, okay, if you want to respond, and then there's another one that I want to ask all of you. Go ahead, Hugo, please.
Ob du darauf etwas sagen möchtest, auf das, was die Dame hier geschrieben hat, dass sie auch erst sehr spät, bis sie erwachsen war, erst realisiert hat, beziehungsweise bis dahin nicht wusste, dass ihre Familie auch sowas erlitten hatte, dass das halt anscheinend nicht weitererzählt wurde. Sie hat das zwar gelesen, aber sie hat das nicht verstanden, bis sie erst erwachsen war. Ob du da halt was drauf antworten möchtest.
Ja, ich sag, es ging mir eigentlich genauso. Also es ist nicht so, dass wir nichts gewusst hätten, aber ich sag mal, gut, es ist eigentlich, dass wir als Kinder das jetzt nicht so in voller Stärke gesagt bekommen haben, ist ja irgendwo vielleicht doch normal, aber es ist, wie gesagt, man denkt als 15-, 16-Jähriger eigentlich jetzt so, wenn du ganz normal aufwachst und so, nicht so weit. Das ist erst wirklich später, wie ich vorher gesagt habe, wo dann diese Ehrungen gekommen sind. Später bin ich auch dann neugieriger geworden, wollte dann an Schulen mit. Aber wie gesagt, das waren alles dann so die letzten Jahre von ihm. Und wie gesagt, das war bei mir genauso. Also das ist wirklich im Nachhinein dann gekommen, was da wirklich dahinter steckt, diese ganze Aufklärungsarbeit, was er geleistet hat, das ist einem erst wirklich später bewusst geworden. Ja, schade drum. Aber wie gesagt, jetzt ist natürlich der Stolz umso größer, weil du weißt, was er alles getan hat. Oder dann sehe ich Zeitungsberichte heute, wo ich sage, wow, da war er. Zum Beispiel vorher habe ich ja euch auch den Brief gezeigt, der war von Münchens Altoberbürgermeister, wie viele hohe Persönlichkeiten dann ihn geehrt haben. Von Steven Spielberg hat er ein Schreiben bekommen und da kann man schon stolz auch darauf sein. Gell? Ja.
We need your translation.
Well, he once again confirmed that as a kid, somehow they tried to prevent them,
To protect him.
protect them from all this informations, which he also, as a young person, as a 15, 16 years old, didn't understand maybe. And it was unfortunately just later when he realized, but nowadays he's proud of the fact that his grandfather was talking about the history. He realizes what how many appreciations he got from very known people. Just as an example, like from Steven Spielberg, they knew each other, and he is proud of it, who his grandfather was.
And indeed, just one moment, Ivanka, I just want to comment that indeed, Steven Spielberg Foundation is all about collecting from all over the world Holocaust histories of Jewish survivors, but also Roma and also Rwanda and other atrocity, massive crimes. And not only, we have so many oral history projects around the world that this is exactly their dedication to put the voices together so they can speak to our generation and to future generations. And some of them, indeed, it's in order to have this never happen again, just like Hugo says at the end of the film. Let me just add here one more question, and Ivanka, then I want to absolutely to hear what you want to say. Regina Hartmann asks here, is the family history something that is openly communicated within the family nowadays, with his parents, etc.? Right, so Regina, your questions also acknowledges different generational ways of family communications. But go ahead if you want to add along those lines. Is it today more acceptable to speak in the family about issues like painful issues.
Hugo,
What is your impressions?
wie ist es jetzt für dich? Wie ist es jetzt bei euch in der Familie? Spricht man offener über diese Tatsachen, was da passiert ist? Hat sich da was geändert mittlerweile?
Ja, auf jeden Fall. Wie gesagt, wir waren durch das, dass ich mich natürlich jetzt auch in gewisser Weise dafür einsetze und, sage ich mal, in der Community drin bin. Zum Beispiel am 22. Ist in Ingolstadt eine Ausstellung, die heißt Unsere Menschen. Das machen auch, da war ich vor 2 Tagen mit einer Stadträtin von der Linken zusammengehockt und da mache ich die Eröffnungsrede. Also wie gesagt, das war jetzt nur ein kleines Beispiel. Es ist aber mittlerweile so, dass wir drüber reden wollen und uns liegt auch am Herzen, gerade wie jetzt alles so in Deutschland verläuft mit der AfD und alles, dass wir wirklich da nicht aufhören zum Erzählen und auch die Erinnerung an das wach zu halten. Also wie gesagt, jetzt mittlerweile ist es eigentlich Thema. Ja.
Yeah, so it is openly communicated. It is a topic not just in their family but also in the community. Himself, he started also to speak in front of people. For example, they have the 22nd. Was ist 22. Oktober? Oder
22 Jahre jetzt am Oktober, genau.
The 22nd of October, there is an event, there is an exhibition, and he will be one of the speakers there.
Wonderful.
Sorry?
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's important to them that they memorize these things in their way and they don't stop to speak about what happened.
Genau, und da ist jetzt auch meine ganze Familie ein bisschen dahinter. Also meine Schwester, mein kleiner Neffe von meiner Schwester, Hugos Urenkel, quasi, der hat auch schon an Projekten mitgearbeitet. Der ist also wirklich ganz jung noch. Und mein Vater hat sogar ein Interview erst gegeben. Also wir sind da jetzt wirklich auch dahinter, dass da was vorangeht. Gell? Wie gesagt, eine Straße wird ja in München nach meinem Großvater benannt. In Ingolstadt sind wir gerade auch am Kämpfen. Wir sind da dabei wirklich und ich möchte auch gern mehr tun in Zukunft.
So he's very into it with almost the whole family, his sister as well, and even his sister's son. So it's the grandson of Hugo, who is very young, but still he is involved in projects, and also Hugo's son, like, I mean.
You mean your son?
Young Hugo's father, also gave interviews, and they are very into it. Also, they try to make it possible that there are street names. I saw that in New York it's not very common, but there are names named after persons, and Hugo Höllenreiner already has in Munich. There is a street.
Yes, is it also for Roma survivors? Because I know it's for Holocaust survivors, but not only in Munich. But is it also for Roma survivors?
Well, as I know, in Europe, you have a lot of streets named after different persons,
right.
And Hugo Höllenreiner is one of them who just got a street named after him in Munich. But young Hugo and his family, they try to also get a street named after his grandfather in Ingolstadt, where they live.
Perfect. But there also, you know, the gold plates in the street where people lived. Are they also done for the Roma, or because I know them about Holocaust survivors. Go ahead, Jovanka, please.
Da, gata lasă-l stolpersteine, pakliau că kai pušel voi andalende, da me kam nema vervar su puj la godja, kam ne te pušel, stolpersteine.
Da, godja pušeli. Da,
Da.
Exactly.
Da. Al de tradiția al Sintenghi să gadea că via Marie Gomai, să că cicamente na căl pe palente te găzâl pe pelente sa palasomule. Ai n-ai de acord ca ta lasă.
So there is in the traditions of Roma and Sinti, they don't want you to put the feet on them after they died. Like that's why there is nothing like this, like these stones. I don't know how to explain it.
Yes, that it's disrespectful or insulting to step on it, to put the bottom of your foot.
That's
yes,
why they don't,
yes, it makes perfect emotional sense.
Da. So cam mete penau, da concentrisau mișto, pentru că ai punctul că cam o te handavau. Godea supujale supindeales că naia de familia de ce ames argom, las îl buchea îl nasud, sar normalia. Gândisau că naștisaras caște pavas, gadavasu punctul godoca ce angajosale îl bud, că dicline, că naștinte pavuven îl buchea.
He's saying that in all this history of lives of Roma people, most of them are used to all the negative things that happen, and somehow they don't even think about changing it because it's so normal in this mentality, in all this history, that every time there is something negative happening.
El filmosa, că n-a cai cărdemes, ci trebuie te concentrezi pe o manuș cu filmul, cu a trecutul. Me cărdemles ando viitor, cu perspectivă. Te avel sar documentul de acest, e documentul istorico, pala e povestea al Hugoski, combinația cu te ca e la muzica sa, deci s-a prendean emoțională, ham gândorința îi te jar pe mai dur. Te jar pe mai dur, hai gadea sam exemplea andaver rom, ca eta saracana o Hugo, o tărno, începon te lem corcovo de pescăvas, hai te căren, anda mari comunitatea corcovo progresia ca e normal trebuie să avem but mai anglar cărțime.
She wanted with this movie, it was not just about the history that happened, so it's not just about all these negative things that happened to remember, but also she wanted to give a possibility or to show that there are possibilities for the future, to take it as a possibility to change. And she's very happy that young Hugo just started, and they are working with their family together to change the things which actually should have been done much before, much earlier, but it's
maybe people were not ready earlier. That's part of what we are learning, not only in families, but also, as Hugo said, in communities.
Pentru că poate n-ați încă pregătime comunitatea de paguvel peschi mentalitatea de care la cană.
N-ai vorba de mentalitatea me cam te penau el experiență el gajența, hai cam te penau te naisarau el amare el jurițască, hai el gimescă, că scote mașcaramendea cana, hai cam te penau că avea să șansa în New York, cote leschi organizația cana te avel tiki respectime că sam via meles lenza pangle hai chiar al filmos a godia so puzleavo te avel vogo doca te reușil te avel din nou filmul andel lende o te andel școli andel universități sau ande aver organizații gajeng cam me corco go naști saras.
She says that it's not just about the people were not ready or the mentality was not ready, but mainly it was a problem, or it still is a problem in the collaboration with the non-Roma, and that's now a possibility for our people, for Roma themselves, so that we start to work together, we start to do our things on our own way. For example, she's very thankful that Jurica and Jimmy Stoica are present here, and maybe that's an opportunity, so that they start in America or in New York, for example, they make a first step to start showing the film in schools, in universities, and well, you have to start, and we have to see what could be next.
Absolutely. And I think technically, I think there should be very good subtitles in English. And somehow we have to discuss it. Maybe Janusz organization will take care of that. And then it's an issue of reaching out to the educational centers to include such things. And because that's part of why our center is creating these webinars, because these webinars can be also viewed everywhere, right? And there will be a recording of the webinar. So on our website, and everyone has access to it. So this is absolutely in the right direction. I was wondering, Lawrence Wetzler and Janusz had a long discussion on the chat. Lawrence, do you want to say a few words, but really briefly, because we are over time? I'm not sorry we are over time. I could stay for hours and hours.
Yeah, I might speak. I'm
Go ahead, Larry. Do you call yourself Larry or Larry?
Larry is good. I'm a Lacanian psychoanalyst.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I think a lot about the real and the undigestible. And I have been reading Holocaust literature since I was in my 20s. I'm 78 now. It's a long time. And I feel that simply recording the facts doesn't come close to the experience of what one went through oneself in the Holocaust. And in order to understand the experience, which I think is core and essential to your project, in order to understand the experience, I think one has to closely study every first-person account one can get one's hands on. Think about this. This has nothing to do with the facts. And I'm also a would-be concert pianist who studied with a pupil of Schnabel's. Schnabel left Berlin for Lake Como to save his life, as did his following. I studied with one of his pupils, and I think music can never really, program music can never really even come close to the experience, which is so hard to ever find any way to symbolize.
Well, thank you. And this is, you remember at the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned that this is precisely the definition of psychohistory that we follow at our center. That is how history is lived, not today, right now. Hugo, Jovanka, Adrian, you, we are living it as we listen.
Mm.
We are not just sharing a list of dates and events. So we are in total agreement. Where are you situated?
I'm in Manhattan.
Oh, really? So you
Yeah,
have
and
to write, please write to us. So
I need an address. I would love to. And also, I hope that we can have access to this film again once English subtitles are installed, so we can understand what
yes,
testimony involved.
yes, I agree. Not, but you can rewatch it until Sunday evening this time. But I totally agree. Jovanka, Janos, I put it in your hands. You go, Adrian. The English translation has to be excellent for us to carry on with it as an educational tool. Okay, so we talk about this toward the future. And thank you, Larry. We would please get involved in the center. I promised everyone that you'll say last words at the end. So let's start with a young one. Hugo, what's your message to everyone?
Also die Message von mir, wo ich weitergeben wollte, ist eigentlich Dankeschön, dass es solche Leute wie euch gibt, die wo auch nicht aufhören und unermüdlich sind für das Wachhalten. Und dass wir halt nicht aufhören dürfen, gerade jetzt in der schwierigen Zeit, die Erinnerung an den Holocaust wachzuhalten und auch den jungen Generationen auch das zu vermitteln, was damals halt war und wie schnell, sage ich mal, aus so einer Ideologie Wirklichkeit werden kann. Ja, das ist eigentlich das, was ich weitergeben wollte.
He said that he's very thankful to people as you, as us, for what we are doing, and that he would like that we don't stop altogether. We don't stop to remind the humanity to the history that happened, and also to the younger people, so that they always have in mind that this kind of ideology could change very quickly in a reality, and we should prevent this kind of things. So we have to stay active, to always talk about this kind of history.
Yes, especially when the world seems to go the opposite way, huh?
Yeah.
You can explain it to Hugo and Jovanka. And Jurica Nikolic, who says bravo. We understand bravo also in English. Yeah. Thank you, Jurica. Adrian, what's your message today? Of course, Hugo, your message could be different in 2 years. We don't know. We will stay in touch and learn. Go ahead, Adrian. What is your message today?
What is my message? To be honest, I didn't think about it, but I would say let's try all together to look for people and institutions who are ready and open to give us the possibilities to start events and new kind of memorial things like what we are planning, projects like this. So I'm actually calling up for sponsorships and people who know people, so that we can go further to change the things.
It's people who know people who care.
Yeah.
So that is where all of our challenge is, isn't it? Yeah. My heroine, Jovanka,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Ok. Concentristu misto, da? Mai glal nai sarau siau, vanga line pesca ga di chivrea mea, te shunen so credeam sar, credeam traduci sar.
First of all, she wants to thank all of you, all the people who took their time as long to hear, to listen to what we did and how we did it.
Hai mu vo mesajul. Silo godo gargaje, te dena me chance, te da saras, te lasa me, amare buchian de amare vas. Na numa probleme că n-ai ame numa probleme să me buchia la șer.
Her messages, especially to non-Roma people, that they give us the possibility to take things on our own, because they're not just problems, there are a lot of good things as well.
S-ar demonstra să deam în filmosa, man să mă bari dorința ai godoasă acana sar viziunea măgă, te da saras, te educhi saras ame, amare și augan, vi ando sistemul gadava școlară. Deci n-a numai godolesa sosame o materialul ca same amen, amare povești, amare trecuturi, s-ar să viu filmul, te da saras, te să cavaze, te avem andogând-o și îl covere și augânța, îl covere raclența, anda gudea că cei mai buni andăl școli cu dezabilități.
She also has the wish, or her vision is that we get a chance to educate our kids, the new generations, in our own way, not just the way of the international system as it is, because in this school system, a lot of young Roma kids go into institutions for kids with disabilities because they're not used to the normal international non-Roma way. So that's why her wish is that we also have the opportunity to educate our kids in our own way.
Anda gudea că sile necesități aver, îs vonăs foarte educhime, dar ca școala lentele îngăsea gudea sojanen, hai cărdiul pe forțomete, săchion, varisoso, plictisile sau n-ai interesul, gudea se problema ca să mașcar conflictul baror, vomența hai îl gajența, hai gudea dau duma unde se Europa, cija noastră să de America, dar să am exemple acute, ande România, ande Austria ca să mas, cât ca ande Germania, te n-am mai penau e Cehia, ca că dine zâdo, separisat de totalul, deci situații ca acanando secolul biștaiec s-am tratit megadia.
There still are very bad situations, at least in Europe. She doesn't know how it is in other continents, other places, but as examples, she was talking about Romania, about Austria, where she has been living for many years. Now she's in Germany, the same, and also in the Czech Republic. There are some very, very strange, complicated situations where they made up a wall between Roma people and non-Roma people, and because of this kind of things, Roma kids, young Roma people have probably or most probably different necessities to the in comparison to the normal kids. So this is where we have to start to give them what they need, because if they have other necessities, they are not used to a normal school system. They get bored of things which are not related to their kind of lives, and yeah.
Hai, că maghiorul Hugo ăsta, că mesajul că închei.
And she is missing Hugo Höllenreiner. She's missing him as a person.
We all.
Yes, I would think so. I never met him and I missed him.
Yes.
because of you.
Yes.
And I wanted to share with you that we, it is a good idea for us to proceed with a working group on Roma issues. But for that, and Adrian, this is a challenge directly to you. We have to be in contact and you have to respond to my WhatsApp messages. You can't just disappear. So, but I wanted to share with you that in the center, we have many different working groups. One of which is in the working group on indigenous peoples. And we also have an advisory council, and one of the members of the advisory council, Francisco, built the first university in Mexico that is a Maya university that teaches in the Maya, not just Spanish, but in the Maya language, Maya children, Maya young people. Also, I'm thinking about, there is UNESCO created an initiative, a 10-year initiative of reviving traditional languages. And one of the members of our indigenous people working group, Stan Rodriguez, teaches in California at his university a special class to revive the language of their tribe. And there's a whole network. In Australia, I spoke to someone. This is what we do. That's why we are a center, right? So it could be very interesting to create a collaborative initiative about this. So we learned from each other as to how to do it, and how to teach and how to lobby for it in the countries where you live. Right, because I think it needs education too. Educations of the educators.
Sie hat als Beispiel erwähnt, dass es in ihrem Center, das sie haben, wo sie zusammenarbeiten, gibt es unter anderem jemanden, der in Mexiko eine Universität gegründet hat oder aufgemacht hat, wo sie nicht nur Spanisch die Landessprache unterrichten, sondern eben auch die indigenen Sprachen wie Maya zum Beispiel, und eben von Leuten, die Maya sprechen, und von jungen Leuten, die das halt eben auch lernen, also über ihren Stamm. Und es gibt auch jemanden in Kalifornien, der auch eine Klasse gegründet hat, mit der er über deren eigenen Stamm und Sprache halt eben lernt und unterrichtet. Also meint, dass das da halt auch die Möglichkeit wäre, dass wir international sowas auch machen, dass wir da unsere Lehrenden eben lehren, also dass die Lehrer sozusagen weitergebildet werden, damit wir halt da dazusteigen können und eben über unsere eigene Geschichte und eben die Sprache und so weiter auch unterrichten können an unsere eigenen Leute.
So we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do, but it's so good to discuss it and to know that in some places people have tried different strategies. And you also, you are speaking in schools. This is very important. This is very important. It is a way to open a dialogue.
Yeah. Yes.
So Harika also says, let's all work towards this. And Eureka, please, those of you who want to work with us in this, in a working group on Roma issues, or just visit our website. There are many webinars that would be of great interest to all of you. And let's continue to work together. Yeah, I hate to say goodbye, but we until we see each other again.
So I say thank you as well. I also apologize for maybe not making it, translating everything 100%. I'm not a translator. It just happened that I speak these languages, so I have to. But thank you also for your patience, Jael.